Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Sims, and I'm the Director of Admissions and Financial Aid at Baylor Law. I'm here today with 5 fellow Baylor lawyers who are here to talk to you about their experience at Baylor Law as well as in practice. And they are all litigators. We have solo practitioners, people who are at large firms, mid-sized firms, so a great range of to talk to you about today. So we'll kick it off with some introductions with Ms. Wint. If you'll introduce yourself.
Sure, my name is Alex Wendt. I'm originally from Temple, Texas. I went on to Texas A&M and College Station before coming to Baylor. I ended up graduating in 2019 from Baylor, and now I'm, I guess, starting my 3rd year at Norton Rose Fulbright in Dallas as a commercial litigator.
Thank you. Annika?
Hi, my name is Annika Kronje. I'm originally actually from South Africa, but I grew up in the Northeast. I went to Penn State, and then after Penn State, I took a year off and then started Baylor Law in 2011, and I actually went straight through, so I graduated in the summer of 2013, and now I live in Fort Worth, and I also do commercial litigation at Winstead.
Chris?
My name is Chris Kwan. I'm from Pearland, Texas. I went to UT Business School, University of Texas Business School, graduated in 2008. I am a 2011 alumni of Baylor Law School, and since then I've always done personal injury trial law. And I run my own law firm, and there's a small firm, and we're located in Pearland, Texas, doing that work.
All right, Jenny?
So my name is Jenny Palmer. I grew up in Bulverde, Texas, which is outside of San Antonio. I graduated from Houston Baptist University for my undergrad and then graduated from Baylor Law in 2005. I was a prosecutor for about 13 years and then went out into private practice last year and primarily focused on family law. And then I'll be the incoming district attorney in Henderson County in January.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Mary Kate?
Hi, I'm Mary Kate Moore. I'm from Chatham, New Jersey. I went to Baylor University for undergrad and graduated from Baylor Law in 2017. And now I work at a small criminal defense firm in Sydney, Australia.
Oh, cool. Well, again, thank y'all for being here. Okay, so if you can think back a little bit, tell me about why you chose to attend Baylor Law. And this is something, if everyone could briefly answer this question, that would be great. We'll start, we can start with Alex, whoever wants to jump in though.
Yeah, I'll go. So I knew I wanted to stay in Texas for law school. So, naturally UT and Baylor were my kind of top places I was looking at, but I ended up going with Baylor just because of a lot of what Dean Tobin said at the, my admissions day or whatever it was before I had decided about just the heart of service being behind sort of what Baylor is about, and that really spoke to me. And also Baylor provided me a really generous scholarship that played a lot into my decision. So it was kind of a twofold deal.
I can go next. So very similar reasons. I really wanted actually a change. I was at Penn State and I just wanted something different. And I actually had taken a year off and then took my LSATs kind of late and was anxious to start. And so I applied to Baylor and I got accepted into the summer program. So I was a summer starter. So I was really attracted to that because I was able to start and finish sooner than I would have if I had gone to the more like traditional program or somewhere that didn't give me that option. And so I just, and I always wanted to be a litigator. So I was really drawn to Baylor's strong focus on litigation and practice court and all that good stuff.
Did anybody else have a reason that they wanted to share why they chose Baylor?
I mean, I can go, but my reasons aren't as cool as everyone else's. Basically, I just wanted to be a lawyer and I wanted to stay in Texas, and Baylor accepted me. So I said, all right, let's go. And that's what happened.
We were in the same boat.
I decided to.
Oh, you muted, Jenny.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
My grandfather graduated from Baylor Law School, so it was always my dream to follow in his footsteps and go to Baylor. I also was a summer starter, so I did like that as well, being able to start sooner right after I graduated.
Yeah. And Mary Kate, how about you?
I don't really have any extra reasons than what people have already said. But I did really like the practical training aspects and the fact that when I graduated, I knew I'd be able to, a few weeks later, be in a courtroom if I had to.
Great. So I know Annika said that she was attracted to the litigation aspect of Baylor Law. As far as anybody else, did anybody come in thinking, no, I never wanted to be a litigator, and then just the program changed their mind, or want to talk about, if you came into law school knowing what you wanted to do and how Baylor either solidified that or changed that?
I can go on that. Before I went to Baylor, I had zero desire to be a litigator or do litigation. I thought I'd be a transactional lawyer, being in my white ivory tower in the big, awesome law firm, but that's not how things worked out. But what I appreciated about Baylor was that it really did teach you the practical aspects of trying a lawsuit, which these days, especially in the civil litigation world, is so rare to find. There's so many lawyers who won't try cases, and coming out of Baylor, already having that leg up has really helped me. So it's helped me in my practice of what I do.
Great, thanks for sharing.
I kind of have a similar story. So I was an accounting undergrad coming out of Mays Business School, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to be a lawyer. But then when I went through moot court, I kind of got a taste for that. And then I think did some litigation internships after that because of moot court, and then practice court kind of solidified the whole deal for me. But definitely the experiences I had at Baylor sort of shed light on that I love litigation, and that was the way I was going to go, and not necessarily transactional, which accounting may have lent itself to potentially. So
That's interesting to hear that, and I'm glad to hear that, because we do have a lot of people who come in with a business background and who think they never want to see the courtroom, and so then the idea of going to Baylor may sound just scary to them, but you got bit by the bug, and so maybe other students will too. Anybody else have anything to add about how they chose litigation or anything like that?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to be a prosecutor, and I graduated in February of '05, took the bar, and then got my results in May and was already trying misdemeanors. So I think that was really great to prepare me for already being in a courtroom, but that was definitely my passion.
And I know we've talked a little bit about practice court. That's already been mentioned, and that's something that all of our admitted students are going to want to hear a little bit about. Could a couple of you tell me about your experience with practice court, and maybe if someone could explain a little bit more about what it actually is, that would be helpful too.
I'll go. So practice court, I think the best, I feel like everybody always talks about practice court. It's kind of this ominous cloud that just hangs over your head when you come into Baylor, and nobody really knows what that even means when you're just, 1L. And so I think the best way to think about it is it's just a boot camp, but a boot camp that prepares you for being a lawyer. And I would say not just a litigator, but just a lawyer. There's a lot of course, hands-on exercise, trial exercises, and you really dive into the rules of civil procedure and evidence and all that. But I think just it goes beyond that, and it's more about learning the value of being prepared as a lawyer and having to be put on the spot, because that's what it's like to be a practicing attorney. People ask you questions and they expect you to know the answers, and they expect you to go into court or client meeting or whatever, already having done the legwork. And that really is what practice court, it teaches you those skills, and it teaches you to sit in one place for a long period of time and maintain a high level of focus. And so I would say, it's really invaluable in a lot of different ways, and not just the practical skills of being a litigator, but just to be a good lawyer teaches you some good core skills for that.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And then with that, our goal is always to prepare our graduates so that they're ready to go. Did you feel prepared when you started your job because of the things that you learned at Baylor Law?
Well, I was going to piggyback off of what was it, Annika was saying was there's the skills that you learn in the courtroom, which is great. But like I said, especially in the civil side, most cases are not getting tried. So, going to trial is a small portion of what a lawyer, especially trial lawyers, do on a daily basis. What I think practice court really helps prepare you for is that the practice of law is that you will end up having way too much work and not enough time. And you have to be prepared as if you know every single thing and you just don't have the time or energy to do it. And in all honesty, a lot of times in practice court, that's how you will feel. You will feel that you're given an impossible amount of work to get done in a short amount of time, and you're already very tired, and you have to sit there and be able to perform and be ready and be prepared and do your best, knowing that you didn't have enough time to prepare and you have way too much work. And so I think that's what's great about practice court, because in the real practice of the law, that is how it is all the time. And if you're not exposed to that early on, you will be exposed to it in the practice of law. And so that's what I did appreciate about practice court, is that it just kind of teaches you to learn that, you're not always going to know everything. You're not going to have enough time. You're going to have too much work a lot of times. And you just got to be able to mentally prepare yourself and get through it the best that you can and be efficient at what you do. Absolutely. That's a huge thing that I think practice court teaches.
I wanted to just add, I think for me, it was a little bit more specific in the experience that helped me. But when I started at my firm, I went to trial, a 2-week jury trial, about 2 weeks after I passed the bar. And so I didn't do mock trial, I did practice court. And so if I wouldn't have done that, I got to take a witness at this trial. I would have had no idea how to do that. I wouldn't have been able to turn to face the jury, do the things that Baylor teaches you. And so for me, it was actually very practical, the application, because I could see myself in those rooms up there on the second or third floor or whatever, doing these exercises with Powell watching me. But then to just be there in the actual courtroom with the jury, doing the exact same thing, the exact same way, really. So for me, it was very specific, the application right away, as soon as I started, so.
So we've talked a lot about how law school is a lot of work and the practice of law is a ton of work. Yes. Is there a way to find balance and also have a life both in law school and the practice of law? And if so, do you have kind of time management tips, especially for those students who are feeling a little overwhelmed by the volume of work?
I actually learned kind of the work-life balance while in practice court and just having to be really intentional about how I'm spending my time. And that's something that I've taken into practice with me, and that I do just have to be very intentional, carve out certain periods of the day for certain things. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I actually try about 6 cases a year. So I'm pretty on the go when it comes to work, and I've just had to learn to be really efficient. And I learned that from the grueling aspect of PC and just having to be quick on my feet and learn things really quickly.
Yeah, and
Really,
sorry, please.
I can't speak to when I was in law school, but I can tell you now, I'm married, I have 2 children. I'm definitely able to still be involved in my community and volunteer at my daughter's school and continue to have a successful practice. And I think, just to piggyback, you have to be very intentional with your time and make sure that you are organized and a scheduler so you can do all of those things.
I agree with that. I'm also married and have 2 small children, and it is challenging at times, but you learn what's important to you and you figure out how to get those things done. And planning ahead and good communication with the people you're working with and the people you're working for, I think is just really important. But I think, everybody kind of has been talking about how hard PC is, and it is. Practice court is hard, but it is also very manageable if you have the right, attitude about it and you manage your time well. So I always feel like prospective students are scared of what practice court is. And a healthy amount of fear is probably good, but it's also not this like impossible thing you can't do. It's just about going in it with the right mindset and the right, skill set and time management, really.
And a little bit more about the actual law school experience. Were you able to find strong friendships? Were you able to be involved and do extracurriculars? If so, what did that look like for you while you were in law school?
I can go on that. I'm gonna tell you right now, some of my closest friends are from law school, and it's that in my opinion, the way it kind of works is that when you're in law school, it's just so overwhelming at times. There's so much going on that and you're just thrown in with a group of strangers that you don't know anybody, you don't know anything, you don't know who they are, and you're kind of forced to interact and work with each other and get to know each other, because at the end of the day, it can get very overwhelming and very lonely whenever you're trying to be in law school and do all this stuff and excel in your classes, but you're just so overwhelmed. So I took the time to make sure that in school that I made relationships and friends so that it made the law school experience easier. And I'm telling you right now, I've taken those relationships to my professional life, and it still helped me. So it's actually really, in my opinion, a very important thing to learn how to deal with people you just randomly met in a law school environment, because that's very common in the professional environment of the legal field. It's absolutely the same thing, in my opinion.
Anybody?
I kind of have similar. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I just have a similar story. I mean, several of my bridesmaids were from law school when I got married right after, and I'm still friends with all of them today. And I think, like Chris was saying, the network, the ability to work hard and network at the same time is something that's going to be with you the rest of your career. So doing that in law school, choosing the friends sometimes over the work, is a good thing. It's just healthy balance, and it keeps you going and keeps you, it makes your life sustainable. So find that thing that you love, do it, and do it with your friends. And then also put in the work from whatever to whatever time you allot. But I think that multifaceted life is something you've got to balance the rest of your career. So you might as well start with it in law school, because definitely those relationships go with you into the legal community wherever you are. I know in Dallas specifically, a ton of my classmates are here, and I could call up any one of them if I needed them for something, just like they could call me. So yeah, it's a great thing to invest in.
Can I piggyback off of that too?
Of course.
In terms of it can go vice versa as well. You could be the one that everyone dislikes in school, and then that can lead on to your professional career as well. So I think it's crucially important to learn how to do that now when you're in school, so that when you get into practice, it's a lot easier for you, because if you're the one that everyone hates while you're in law school, it usually transitions that way when you're in practice.
No, absolutely. And that's something we definitely talk about, especially with a small law school like Baylor. Everyone. So let's talk a little bit more about practice. What is the most surprising thing that you have found about the practice of law? Has anything just surprised you that you just weren't prepared for and that you've had to really learn as a litigator?
Let's say, I mean, I'm not surprised anymore, but when I first started, I guess, I don't know that it gets talked about a lot in law school, but, if you're in private practice especially, it's a client service business, and somebody is paying you X amount of dollars, usually per hour, whatever, for your time, and you are accountable to that person. We owe very serious duties to our clients. And, I just think when I first started, that very practical aspect of, somebody cares about updates to their cases. Somebody wants to know what's going on, and that client relationship is just as important as being a good technical lawyer, having those personal skills, having clients who trust you and come back to you. But also, a lot of what I find myself doing is just listening to people talk about things that maybe don't matter to their legal case, but it's important to them. So just being a good listener and remembering you're in a client service industry. And so just like you want good customer service when you go buy a product or a service, somebody also expect good service when they're paying you to be their lawyer.
Absolutely. So, I mean, kind of along those same lines, maybe not something that's surprising, but just something that you really wish you had known before you started practicing.
I'll jump on that one. For me, what I really wish I had known is that, everybody tells you that everybody makes mistakes, but you think in your head that if I make a mistake, it's the end of the world. Even though everybody does it, I'm not going to do it because my life will be over. And I think just after making mistakes, because everybody does, you realize that everybody actually does make mistakes. And also, too, that virtually any mistake, with an asterisk next to it, but basically any mistake can be resolved. It can be fixed, and you can fix it. And I think that's something I've taken a lot of comfort in my practice is when things go wrong or differently than I planned, there's an alternate plan. There's an alternate universe that it still works out, and I can just figure that out. So I think just realizing that perfectionism is a great thing to strive for and to be conscientious, but it's not the end of the world when things aren't perfect. Things typically work out. So that's been helpful to me to realize it takes some of the pressure off.
That's great advice.
Yeah, I wish I had focused a little bit more on developing self-care skills while in law school, because I don't think I gave myself really the permission to take care of myself until after, and it became a real necessity. So the best advice that I could give past me is it's okay to say no to things, and it's okay to take time out for yourself to take care of yourself, because you can't take care of others if you're not in a good place yourself.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of piggyback on that as well. I wish I would have known how to set healthy boundaries in the very beginning, especially when I went into private practice last year. I immediately gave all my clients my cell phone number, and suddenly I'm having people, text message me at 2:00 in the morning. I wish I would have realized how to set those healthy boundaries right away.
Great advice. So tell me and everyone can answer this question briefly. What's your favorite thing about being in a litigation-based practice?
I would say for me, it's the people I work with and come into contact with. I mean, just litigators, not to, talk badly of transactional attorneys or any of that, but litigators typically have a personality that's really dynamic, congenial, and fun and funny, and super smart and just, quick-witted. And so just a lot of my coworkers are exactly that. And it's such a fun place to be and to work, and to just spitball with my trial team. And it's a really collegial environment that I've really enjoyed, and it's probably my favorite part of the practice.
Great. Monica, did you have something? What's your favorite thing about being a litigator?
I think what Alexandra said is true. Like, there's a great bonding experience that you go through if you are kind of in trial or arbitration or hearing prep with a group of people. You just you bond over a case, and so I think that is really what makes it enjoyable. That and getting a good result for your client. A lot of my clients, it's very personal to them. We do some, business litigation and with businesses, but also have a lot of like individual clients, and it's, the things I work on, it's very personal and important to them, and they're always very grateful when we get a good result for them. And so that is what kind of it makes them more than just pushing papers, or just having to write a motion just because you have to. There's somebody behind it that really cares about how this resolves itself. So
Anybody else want to share about your favorite thing about being a litigator?
I like how varied it is. I feel like every fact pattern that I get is different. It's never just a robbery. There's always something about each case that makes it weird in its own way, and you have to learn something new in order to successfully either do a sentence or go to court on it. It's always fun and always different.
Okay, well, we'll move on then. As far as your involvement with the Baylor Law community as an alum and as a practicing attorney, if you are involved at all, what does that look like? Do you feel like you can just pick up the phone and call professors? Do you go to events? Tell me a little bit about that.
I'll jump in. I have called Professor Wilson, for example, just to chat about work things and just different issues. I think a lot of the professors I had just very open door, and I feel like if I needed anything, I've also called Professor Miller on a business issue one time during my summer internship when I was desperate. She was so helpful. So I've definitely felt that open door policy. And then, I haven't been so good about going to events, but like I said, several of my friends that live in Dallas from law school, we meet up regularly. I mean, pre-COVID, and I try to stay involved. I definitely plan to go to some future events. I mean, that's always on my schedule. It just hasn't happened yet, but there's definitely plenty of opportunity to get together for happy hours. And, there's always the weddings and the whatever there may be that I've seen some people at, but yeah.
I'll say this: anytime that I've been at like dealing with a lawyer when they're opposing counsel, or I've been at an event, or whatever, or if it's a networking event on the plaintiff side or wherever, anytime that there was a Baylor lawyer, and I mentioned that I'm a Baylor lawyer, and that person was a Baylor lawyer, it automatically got a little bit of kind of like perked their ears up. Like, oh, really? Hey, and that in itself can make a big difference. And so I that's helped me. And I remember in my first job, I met a lawyer who'd been there for 15 years, and he was the only other Baylor lawyer there. And the first thing he asked me was, what was the business records predicate, which I completely bombed at the time. So you probably should remember that if you're going to be trying to talk to another Baylor lawyer, especially in your law firm. But lawyers, the Baylor lawyers perk up whenever they find out there's another Baylor lawyer on the other side.
Absolutely.
I have been to several of the happy hour events that y'all host. I've been to some in Dallas and then some in Fort Worth, and it's always, fun to see people that you haven't seen in a long time. And of course, there's always the professors who come, and it's fun to catch up with them. And I have stayed in touch with a couple of professors, and I used to always come back and judge for Professor Bates's moot court practices and all that. So yes, I have not called any of them on like an actual legal question yet, but I do still stay in touch with professors and other Baylor lawyers. It's always good to see when y'all do those happy hours. I always have fun when I go.
Great. And then finally, again, we're talking to admitted students, and they're really preparing to start law school, whether that be in February, May, or August, and maybe they're still trying to choose where to go. What advice would you give to those students about choosing which law school to go to and or preparing for the beginning of law school?
I have one thing to say. Don't pick a law school because you think it's easy, because the practice of law is not easy. And if you're going to a school that's saying, oh yeah, we're easy, it's going to be flying colors, just, you can just leisurely go by, you may be able to get through law school like that, but you will not get through the practice of law like that, because we're all very competitive people. We're all very type A. We all like to win. We all like to do our best. And so when you're surrounded by a bunch of people like that, it immediately raises your game. And if you aren't willing to meet that level, you will not survive. So learning that grit, of the difficulty of practicing law early on in law school is crucially important, because in the real world it is not easy at all.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, I agree with you, Chris. I think that's something that really drew me to Baylor, for example, is because they have a lot of required courses. And I know that for some students that might be a turnoff, but for me, I thought it was a great idea, because then I don't have to choose between my grades and being prepared for the practice of law, because everybody's got to take that class, that really hard class, instead of this whatever easy class. And so I loved that kind of setting the bar for everybody very high, so that I could go into the bar exam confident, and so that I could go into my practice confident. So I would say that, yeah, choose a place that's going to prepare you the best. For me, I thought that was Baylor. But think about that, because it's not necessarily about your experience in law school. It's about what you're learning there to take on with you, because it's just 3 years, and then the rest of your life is your practice. So be smart about the decision. Go where you're going to learn what you need to learn to pass the bar, because that's how you have a career. So.
Any other nuggets of wisdom for our admitted students as they're making these decisions and getting prepared?
One of the things I wish I would have done, I went, just straight through. I took 1 quarter off. I think the benefit of Baylor is you can take those quarters off at times. And I wish I would have taken a little bit more time going through law school than trying to rush through so I could get out and start practicing right away. So I wish I would have taken a little bit more time in going through law school.
I hear you. Okay, well, thank you to our Baylor Lawyer panel for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy practices to talk to our admitted students. They love hearing from you and really appreciate it. And I'm going to stop the recording, and I hope you'll have a great day.